So you're probably familiar with the update that came along in April of 2017 that reflected the changes that we saw for FDA, the final rule for registering our studies on clinicaltrials.gov. This document is really important, along with the entire suite of documents for clinical compliance program guidance manuals for the BIMO program, because it allows us insight into what the FDA is going to be looking for. So I always tell folks, these are the answers to the test questions. This is what the FDA is expecting. This is what they're going to inspect. So we're going to talk about new regulatory requirements and building those into our audits. Talk about inspection criteria and quality systems from the sponsor level that support changes in the inspection focus. So why is the FDA changing? One example, as we just discussed, was the requirement for registration of our studies. Look at the FDA's application for the Compliance Program Guidance Manual as reflected in regulatory communication. So we know that the regulations, for example, do not require that sponsors have written procedures. But buried in this document are about 18 SOPs that they want to see, even at a high level. And we see it in warning letters and guidance documents. Find a way to be compliant. And we'll talk about steps for preparation of an inspection. So who gets audited? Why do we audit? We all audit one another. We audit to make sure we are meeting the same common goal of good clinical practice, credible data from protected subjects. So regardless of therapeutic area, investigational product type, we are focused on that. When we audit matters. If we're going and doing a pre-qualification audit like I just did of a CRO, we're trying to see what risks are potentially identified so that we can mitigate those before we get started, or are we doing an in-process audit where we have data and we are able to assess whether their controls have held. So pre-qualification audits allow us to look at policies, whereas in-process or real-time audits allow us to look at processes. Did I say policies? That's what I meant. Pre-qualification is policies, in-process obviously is processes. And we also have to think about where our internal audits fit in. Are we conducting internal audits? How are we using that information? As an auditor, I always caution, particularly my sponsors, when they want me to go and do an audit, in-process audit, not to just hand over the report to the auditee, because invariably there's information in that report that points back at the sponsor or the CRO. Selecting sites, maybe not monitoring, not overseeing what's going on, not having a strong, robust quality management system. So our timing impacts our ability to get that insight, that window into the world of that auditee. We can go out and do a pre-qualification audit before we even have data because we are assessing systems that generate data rather than the data itself. The in-process audit allows us to determine whether, as I said, those controls have held. Policies versus processes. Good clinical practice wants us to be actively engaged, but if you read the guideline, it puts auditing retrospectively. Unfortunately, this is also something the FDA has been cited for by the Office of Inspector General, being more concerned about data integrity rather than subjects' rights, safety, and welfare, because you're coming in after the fact. So one of the things that we have seen over the last several years as we build in quality and do quality by design is bringing QA more to the forefront, doing those pre-qualification audits, being engaged in establishing the parameters under which we function. Our goal is to make sure the data is verifiable and individuals from whom we have collected that data have been protected. We know that ICH tells us under 5.19 that sponsors need to audit. Now, FDA considers us to still be optional. Quality assurance units are optional, as you'll see under the Compliance Program Guidance Manual. But quality management, quality assurance, quality control, parts of ICH E6 Section 5, we need to have an audit plan. We need to have audit procedures, and we need to think about the level of risk. We've got to think about certainly The importance of trial submission to regulatory authorities. I kind of brace at this because I think anytime you're involved in investigational product in a human subject population, it's important. Right? People that say, hey, it's just a phase 1 study, obviously don't understand how those studies are structured, how we progress through development.